also here, he's in the block now, and we are west of the shortcut in front of the Gallagher rooms. That's where he headed north. I think Tex will be able to maybe give you better directions than me. It looks like he's playful this morning, and we can expect him to carry on doing these little bounding trots. And some great camera work there, Wium, and you get an idea of how good their camouflage is when they are in thicker vegetation like this. I think so. So, we're having to do a big loop around here in order to try, where we can, take the path of least resistance. So, except for that, that was not the path of least resistance, that was the path leading me into the silver cluster leaf. So I gave a little bit of a nudge. Morning. Now, we'll make a decision up ahead. I'd like to get you one more view of this animal, but because of the nature of this vegetation, I may decide to rather go and look for something else. This is not the only leopard on the property, and certainly not the only animal, so what I may do is head into a different area, but I'm going to get out my GPS in a moment, just establish exactly where we are, and then make a decision, but just to keep you updated on the plans. copy, thanks. Now I'm hoping he's coming towards us, but it could be that he's veering more east. Really good camera work again by Wium. Not easy when the animals are on the move, especially through the thick vegetation like this. But wasn't that great? And I hope you enjoyed that view of what looks to be Kunyuma, the young male leopard we were expecting to find in this area. But I fear that this may be the end of the road. It's just so thick with a specific tree called the black monkey orange, and they are not particularly enjoyable to follow animals through. It makes a very loud noise, and there's literally an impenetrable bank of them in front of us. So I think I'm just going to get out the way so this game drive vehicle can carry on with its business. Oh, I have just seen him again. Let me just see where he heads to. He could come towards us, but he does appear to be heading in the wrong direction. Tex, I'm going to move out. It's too thick here. But thank you very much.
All right.
Very much. Have a good morning. So Texan just got a hold of me on the radio and he said, it's not fair. Your small short vehicle, you can slither around through the bush like a snake. So just a little bit of friendly banter and joking amongst us. And he is a wonderful man, Texan, has been working here for many, many years and has a wealth of knowledge that thankfully we get to tap into, and his skill of finding animals and knowledge of the area certainly do help us, because without him and all of his knowledge there would be a lot less interesting animals found, and we all share the sightings. There's actually another vehicle who was hoping to come and see this leopard, but as you saw it was too thick, and that's just the luck of it. Sometimes you can just be 5 minutes away, but that's not close enough. Was that last night, Tex? Copy. Well, what a start it's been to the morning, and we're just going to take a few moments here to see if this leopard doesn't pop out, and we'll let Aubrey continue a little bit further ahead of us to make sure that area is covered, and we'll try and cover this section where we are currently situated. So, to all of the newcomers and to all the regulars, just a reminder, you can ask questions at any moment. And to do that, you would hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Then those questions come through. Nikki in the final control room will look through them and try and relay them through to me on the earpiece as we go. And a lot of questions do come through, so if yours doesn't get answered, apologies, but you can imagine there are many people sending the questions through, so it's just luck of the draw which ones get answered. How's everything in there, Nix? Okay. Now, just to give you an idea of how far away we last left this leopard from this road, it was probably about a quarter of a mile, so not extremely close, but in the same breath not very far considering how quickly that he was moving. And he had been moving in generally this north and easterly direction, so north is kind of left-right and forward back is east-west, so his general trajectory was bringing him towards this road. Whether or not he'll ever actually make it to this road, we'll only find out by searching for him. Failing this, which I'm not feeling hugely confident about, to be honest, I would like to head through to Tex Aubrey's just behind me. I stayed quite close to where we came out of the block, and I've just continued now down in the same direction as you, but yeah, just moving slowly down the fire break. There's some of Wium's favourite birds here, and let's see, well done Wium. They're called babblers, and I hope they continue to babble as they were as we arrived. Arrow-marked babblers. Pretty birds, but sadly because they are quite secretive and like hopping around quite dense vegetation, copy orbs. Sorry, man. So those were arrow-marked babblers. And I do have a plan. Well, I did have a plan for this morning, and it was mainly for the ornithologists amongst the viewers. And there was a bird that I saw out in Arethusa the other day that is quite rare, and I feel that it may be missing on a lot of your bird lists. Now, for those of you who are new to safari life, it's important to understand it's not only the big cats and the high animals that we'll stop and look at, but the other animals. And that's the safari experience. You can't only rely on the main big animals, because sometimes you can't find them, and those are the times when you can start really enjoying the finer details and other animals that occur out here. So birding does form part of a big part of the safari experience, and when we do manage to get them sitting down, we do always try and show you. The tricky thing is they tend to flutter off very quickly. There's a lot of rattling sticklers, alarm calling, so I'm just going to reverse a bit. And a rattling stickler is a very small bird. That they often do make a racket, actually, these rattling sticklers, and but there seem to be 3 or 4 of them in this bush alarming, so I'm not sure whether it was for the leopard or another predator that they may have seen, but a very small bird. But it may have false alarm. So anyway, the plan is to go and try and show all of you a bird that I don't think you would have seen before. I may be wrong. And that is out on the Arathusa airstrip. Now, as I did mention earlier, there's an animal, or there was an animal, somewhere along this road that we don't get to see very often, and I'm hoping we're going to be able to find it now. I'm just checking my radio comms. Perfect. Just keep me updated, thanks. So somewhere in this thick vegetation you can now see a beautiful big giraffe having his breakfast. And it's cold this morning. I'm putting my jacket back on. There's a cold wind in the air. When we're off-roading, it's actually surprising, not tiring, but you do get hot because of turning the wheel so often, I guess. I don't know. But I was cooking. I needed to take my jacket off, but now that the off-roading has stopped, it's time to put the jacket back on. Now you can hear a bird making a kind of rasping rattle call. This is my impersonation, that was terrible. But it's a very important bird call to know because it often signifies there being animals around, because that was the call of the oxpecker, which will probably be feeding on this giraffe. I'm just going to try and reposition. Now that we've let them get a little bit used to us, I'm hoping we're going to be able to find a gap here. Now, interestingly enough, I just need to make sure, but it looks like, yes, he is indeed feeding on a tamboti tree. And giraffe will be one of few animals to actually feed on this tree. It's got a milky latex, which is toxic. And I've actually noticed that when they do feed on tambotis, this is a young tamboti it's feeding on, they can often begin to salivate profusely, but he doesn't appear to be doing that yet. Now, the wood from the tamboti tree is also toxic, and if we were to use it for firewood, we would become sick. And not many animals will, just giraffe and porcupine that feed on the roots and bark of the tamboti. I'm not sure if there's many other animals that will. So that milky latex, which is toxic, will keep most other animals at bay, but not the giraffe. As you can see, he's loving it. And you'll notice I said it's a male. And this is easy to see now, just like in the human world, men tend to bald and women not so much. But you can see the top of those horn-like structures are bald. And that would have been from fighting with other males. The hairs will rub off on the top of those vestigial horns. Whereas the females will have little tufts of black hair growing out of the top of those horn-like structures. So that's one of the better ways to be able to distinguish between male and female giraffe. I'm sadly not copying you very clearly, Nix, but we can try again a bit later, thank you. Either that or try to speak more slowly and clearly. Diane in Michigan, good morning. Diane in Michigan would like to know if this giraffe has a scar on the left side of its neck, and not that I've seen, and it is quite a commonplace for giraffes to have scars. So it can sometimes be misleading to use scars on the neck part of a giraffe to help identify them. But I think Diane is interested to know whether... Oh, there is a big scar there, apologies. It's massive. How could I have missed it? So it does indeed have a large scar on its neck, but from the angle where I'm positioned just ahead of Wium, I can't get my binoculars onto it. So it's in a little gap that allows you to see the scar from the camera, but I can't see it from where I'm sitting here. However, looking at the monitor, I can see the scar, and it is looking very distinctive, Diane, so it could be a giraffe that you've seen in the past. I don't think I've necessarily seen this one. And there's an oxpecker sitting just above the scar, so that was the bird we heard calling earlier. And it's sitting there in the hope that it will find some tasty morsels to feed on the giraffe, and it certainly will. They are plagued by ectoparasites called ticks, and it's the oxpecker's role in this environment to feed on the ticks and therefore help the giraffe in getting rid of these parasites. And speaking of parasites, you can see one's obviously frustrating it because it started to scratch its head there. Marianne on Twitter would like to know what exactly causes those scars on their necks, and it could be a combination of fighting. They do have some very serious fights, and they swing their heads into one another at huge speeds, and I'm not sure if that could cause the scar. I think it's more of a a skin problem caused by parasites. And I'm just having a look in Brent's Animal Bible that he lent me this morning. It really is a wonderful book, to see if they do say anything about it in here, but I don't think it will. But it's not from an encounter with cats, that's for certain, that scar. And in all likelihood, there's some kind of a skin disease or from fights with other giraffe. Okay, let's see if we can get one last view of him. But I fear, I don't know. You also notice he's got a big scar on the right side of his neck as he's now turned around and is facing us from the other side. There it is. So not as big as the one on his left side. Oh, he's got a beautiful dark coat though. And what incredible animals they are, the giraffe. And the sun is trying to poke out behind some clouds, and potentially in half an hour or an hour or so we may have some sunlight coming through. I wonder what he's seen. Giraffe can, when they start staring intently, lead you to some interesting animals, but I don't think that is the case. We will monitor him, and it may simply be that he's noticed something in the vegetation that he's not entirely certain of. And that could be because we're here and have got him on alert, but he does seem very relaxed just looking from him now. Maybe it's the tambuti, the milky latex of the tambuti, that's making him feel a bit funny. Maybe it's the tambuti, the milky latex of the tambuti, that's making him feel a bit funny. Now, just got a question in from Marianne. Morning, Marianne. And Marianne is interested to know, look at how flexible that neck is. That is incredible. Sorry, Marianne. Marianne is interested to know, how would a pride of lion manage to take down a giraffe? And there is a pride of lion that we do see from time to time that have killed a giraffe. They are sadly not on our traversing area though, so we cannot see them. But they did catch a giraffe, and it does happen with lion. I guess you know that a giraffe will get scared if a lot of lion are chasing it, and possibly when it's running away it could trip up, and or lions can jump up onto their back and bite into their spine and cause damage to their spine, thus paralyzing them. So there's very many different ways that lions will be able to bring them down, and it will all vary greatly on the individual hunts. But what is important to understand is that it is dangerous for lion. So now you can see the giraffe has seen something, so we will reverse ever so slightly and show you what it's looking at. So it was just some Nyala crossing the road, and this is a young male, probably born around November or December 2013. But interesting there how the giraffe's body language did change dramatically. It was just antelope that it was looking at, but it could well have been a leopard or something else. So just to show you how they can see things and help us. But back to Marianne's question, yeah, many different ways that lion could bring down giraffe, but it's a dangerous business, because if you receive a kick from a giraffe, you will know all about it, or potentially you won't know anything about it, and it will be the end of your career. So dangerous animals to hunt, but obviously if you do manage to bring one down, you don't have to worry about food for a few days. And depending on the pride of lion and the area that they live in, you may often find that lions will specialize in hunting certain animals or unique animals like giraffe or buffalo or even elephants in some rare cases. And can you believe that? Prides of lion hunting not baby elephants, sometimes adult elephants, and managing to bring them down. It's sadly never a quick death for the elephants, because it's very difficult for the lions to perform the coup de grace on such a big animal, and I'm not sure if I'd be able to watch that event unfold, because it would take hours for them to kill the elephant. But it does happen, and that is nature. In my time in the Sabi Sands, though, typically you haven't seen too many lions hunting giraffe, and the reason why they wouldn't specialize in hunting them is because there simply aren't very many here. There's not a lot of giraffe, and because of that, why would they specialize in hunting them? Please, can you have a delay after initially asking and then go with the question? got a question through from Anna Marie. Good morning, Anna Marie, and how are you? Anna Marie would like to know whether I've ever seen giraffe fighting, and I have, not very many times though, never full-blown or very serious fights. So essentially the answer to that is no. Oh, look here, he's come to give himself a scratch. This is going to be awesome. So obviously, not having hands that can reach your stomach mean that you have to sometimes get a little bit creative. And as you can see, he's got a kind of rhythmic dance move here that he's using, combined with a bush willow that he's bent over, and this seems to be doing the trick. You could almost tell how much joy he's getting out of this little scratching session he's getting here. Much needed, and I guess it takes a while to find the perfect branch to bend over and scratch your stomach with. But no, sadly, I have not seen giraffes doing any serious fighting, and would really love to see it. It just goes to show, even though I've spent years and years in wilderness areas, I haven't seen certain things that people who have only come out on safari once in their life may have seen. So there are just so many different things you can see, and a lot of it depends on luck. So it appears that the tree decided to use as a stomach scratcher has been capsized or broken, and it therefore is no longer providing much resistance in order to help scratch his stomach. And let's see what his next plan is. Oh, he's not done with it. Oh, he's going in for another one. Gives you an idea how tough their hide is. If we were to drag ourselves over that same bush would be covered in cuts and scratches. But it's a soothing scratch for the giraffe. We've just got a question through from Virginia in Kentucky. Good morning, Virginia. And still on the subject of fighting, Virginia's interested to know if these small horn-like structures known as ossicones, do they ever break off when they're fighting? And no, not that I've seen or heard of. They are very short, hard, bony structures that would be incredibly difficult to break, and I haven't heard of them breaking. I guess because they are very short, it would be more difficult for them to snap off. But there certainly is a chance that somewhere along the line, a giraffe has broken an ossicone, but I've never seen one. Okay, well, I think we're going to leave this beautiful big giraffe to his own devices. It's been a magical sighting, but it is time for us to go and look for something else now, as he again decides to feed on another tambuti tree. So it's interesting, it's not at all the times of the year that you'll see them feeding on tambutis. It's quite interesting that he is, because like I did say earlier, it's a toxic plant to most other animals. So I think now we will start making our way towards the Arethusa airstrip, and we will no doubt bump into other animals along the way, but I would like to try and get there timeously. Have a look for the rare bird that I'd like to try and add to the ornithologist's lists, and if we have no luck there, I can assure you some beautiful scenery in that area that we'll be looking for them along the Arethusa airstrip. And if there's time after that, maybe we'll try and pop in at the hyena den site. It's been a while since we've been there. There's been so much other stuff going on, and I guess when there have been little gaps when we would have been able to go and have a look at them, they simply weren't there. So it's a lottery out here, and it's been a while since we've won the hyena jackpot, so it'll be worth trying a little bit later. It is nice and cool today, and even though the sun is shining now, it's still quite fresh, and myself and Wium, as you can see, still have our jackets on. Just an update, there's been very, very few people on this property this morning, and what that means is a lot of places have not been searched. So It's really exciting when you know that. It's always exciting, but when you know nobody's been down any of the roads, it makes it that much more exciting because you know very well that you may find some animals that have yet to be discovered. So, a big old lone buffalo bull. And there might be one or two following suit. They like to come and spend the hotter parts of the day as it warms up at waterholes. This guy seems a bit early, but like I say, I'm sure some of his friends will be following him to this position shortly, and as we drive on we may even see a few more heading here. He's just chewing the cud as he goes. And having a toilet break. So they can multitask, the buffalo. We've just got an interesting question through from Vicky. Good morning, Vicky. And I guess Vicky possibly asked this question because she can see a lot of flies on our faces over the drives. There are a lot of flies around, but they are not sand flies, Vicky. Vicky is if we do get sand flies in Africa, and yes, we do get sand flies in most subtropical areas of the world, but they have never caused personal issues to me, and therefore I don't know too much about them. So even though I know we do get them here, I haven't personally had any problems from them. I believe if they bite you, they can leave a bit of a rash, and so it's an irritating fly that can also carry disease. But I personally haven't come across them in my travels through Africa, and I've grown up in South Africa, spent time in Mozambique, Kenya and Tanzania, and those are all tropical and subtropical areas, yet I haven't had any problem with sandflies. So maybe I'm just lucky, or I guess that must be it, or possibly I just haven't been into a specific area where sandflies occur. Their name is also derived from the fact that they live in often very sandy places. So they do occur here, Vicky, but I've never had any trouble with them. It would be interesting to know if you have any trouble with sandflies in your part of the world, Vicky, wherever you are from. Got a question through from Sandy in Indiana. Sandy is interested to know whether we get ostrich here, and she did mention that on a few years ago. She did see a glimpse of an ostrich on a drive, and they do occur in the Greater Kruger National Park, which is where we are now, but they prefer more open areas, open grasslands. They don't do well in thicker areas for a few reasons. I think the food that they require is easily acquired in the open grasslands, and also there's less chance of them running into lion and leopard. They can see further and therefore outrun prey, but in thick vegetation they might find themselves getting into some dangerous scenarios. So even in my 3.5 years, well, coming on 4 now with the work I've been doing here, I've only seen a giraffe in the Sabi Sands once. An ostrich once. So they do occur here, but they are rare, and it's simply because it's the wrong habitat. And there's lots of not only birds but also antelope that will occur in the Sabi Sands, will have free flow, be able to move here if they wanted to, but they don't because it's the wrong habitat. And the Kruger National Park is a huge area, and I guess Africa as a whole is huge, and you get animals occurring throughout Africa, but only in isolated pockets where the habitat suits them. So each African country will have diverse habitats, and that's the same can be applied here in the Kruger National Park, which is the reserve that we are collectively a part of. There's no fence between us and this massive reserve, and that allows animals to free flow and also occur where they actually want to and are best suited to occur. We could catch ostrich, put them here, and they would survive for a while, but obviously they don't want to be here, otherwise they would have made their way here naturally. Hopefully though, WildEarth will start a project elsewhere at the end of this project, and maybe there we'll be able to show you some different animals, and there's no limit to how many places we could go and do this from. So let's hope it all works out. So I'm checking quite carefully for tracks of a female leopard called Karula. It was the mother of the leopard we saw earlier this morning, and well, it is the mother of the leopard we saw earlier this morning, and she was kind of heading in this general direction last night. Brent spent some time with her towards the end of the evening drive, so it is just worth keeping tabs on where she is, even if we don't actively look for her. But if we just see her tracks, then we've got an idea that she's in this area, and that we can come back and look for her later or this afternoon. There's tracks of a herd of wildebeest that have also just come back into this area. We're not sure if they were here before, if it was the same herd we used to view. But wonderful to have a herd of wildebeest back. And the tracks were heading around in this area, but they seem to have head off to the right now. I'd be interested to know if Vicky replies to my question to her, whether she has sandflies at home, or if they bother her, or why she wanted to know about them. Okay, copy, thanks. Did she say anything about the bite and what it causes? Okay, well, that's interesting, Vicky. And Vicky replied to my question to her, and Vicky lives in Texas, and she says she does get sandflies there. And possibly the sandflies attack animals and not humans so much. And maybe Vicky's noticed some similar wounds on animals here that she may have on animals that she might see in Texas. So I'm not too sure, but I don't know too much about sandflies, so I'm trying to find out what Vicky knows, and then we can share it with everyone. And that is the beauty of this live and interactive game drive, is that everyone can share knowledge with one another, and that way we get to know more about what's going on. Now, here are the female leopard tracks that I was expecting to come into. Just going to jump off for a second and have a quick look around. I'll be back now, and like I said, I don't want to lose focus and spend too much time on these tracks, but I do want to just establish which direction she's moving in, so we've got an idea for later on. Okay, well, that was useful. It appears she's continued north along this road a little bit and then cut in an easterly direction. So we know later the general area to go and search for her if we are interested in that. And the reason why I wanted to have a quick look was to make the most of the fresher tracks from last night before the wind and other animals pass over this area and vehicles and therefore lose the tracks. I'm guessing we're about 15 minutes or so away from Arathusa airstrip, so get your bird books out because there's going to be a trickier bird than normal that I'm going to ask you to try and identify. Just got a bit more info on Harlequin Dreams. Thanks for sending some more info through on the sand flies, or also apparently known as sand fleas. And they're also found in North America and Canada in the summer. I'd be interested to know whether they cause much of a nuisance to us as humans, and what exactly that nuisance is. Do they bite you, and is it a small rash, and what is the wound like that you receive from a bite from the sandfly? Okay, so this is Treehouse Dam. Could you just go again with where it's from, please? I just got a question through from Dara in Ohio. Morning, Dara. And Dara is interested to know whether the airstrip we're heading to is where there's a warthog with an abnormally large offspring of 7 piglets. And it is indeed, and hopefully they'll be running around when we get there. These old buffalo bulls are just relaxing here at the waterhole. And just like we saw the other bull heading towards Gari Dam a little bit earlier, it is common to find them here at the waterholes at this time of year. Oh, there's 2 that are having a very, very mild little tussle, but worth hanging around for. Who knows what it may lead to. And I guess, like most fights and arguments, they tend to build up with intensity, even though at the moment these 2 look half asleep. And you may notice there's a wildebeest in the background that I've just seen. So it's probably the same herd that we had tracks of further back, but they would have veered off the road because their tracks didn't continue down here. So you'll notice a dark shape in the bush behind, and that is not another buffalo. They do look quite similar, the 2 animals, and can occasionally be confused. So what I'm hoping is that the wildebeest are going to pop out into the open, and that way allow us for a great one-shot comparison between the 2. Now, whether these two bulls are tussling like this out of almost friendly companionship, certainly doesn't seem like there's any major intent here. And the fact that there's no females around in the immediate vicinity would also help me kind of assume that it's just some friendly interaction with one another. But, oh, that one's eye was in a very dangerous predicament there for a second. Sure. And like I say, maybe it will build up with intensity, but with the lack of females around, I'm not sure what would possess them to want to have a big fight with one another, because typically their main competition with one another would be only when there are ladies around. And the opportunities to mate are present. There's a little blue Birchall starling, possibly thinking of refereeing this bout. But more likely it's that the starling is using these two buffalo to help its hunting, because as the buffalo move, they chase up little insects. Another time that buffalo bulls may fight without females around, or an exception to not having ladies around, is possibly when it becomes dry and food is less available, so essentially the animals become hungry and irritable, and at that stage, later into the winter, we could expect them to fight quite seriously. But who knows? Who knows what it is? Bothered by these and pestered by these little flies or fleas. They don't seem to be as common in South Africa, or certainly not in the parts of South Africa that I've seen. Now, I've got a challenge for Wium. It's always a gamble doing this, but there is a beautiful bird flying in the sky. It was flying towards us. It's behind this big tree, Wium, and clearly, oh no, is it too far? No, it's headed off in the wrong direction. It was a beautiful bird called the batelier, a big bird of prey. The tricky thing is with them is that at this stage of the morning, when hot air thermals are rising off the earth, they can soar effortlessly at high speeds of comfortably up to 50 miles an hour, and obviously if they're not heading in the right direction, or if they veer off, it makes our job showing you them a little bit tricky. So we have stumbled upon a herd of male impala, and we're going to start taking a much closer look at these animals, because over the coming weeks they are going to start their rutting, where they will compete fiercely with one another for rights over territory, and it's the rights over territory that lead to the rights to mating. If they can secure a popular territory that the ladies like, naturally the ladies will flock into that area and they will have free reign over them. And like I said, they will fight very aggressively using their horns, and occasionally they can even kill one another. I've come across two different impala that had been killed during rutting over my years in the bush, and that's just the two that I've seen, so it certainly does happen. And they let off the most bizarre call. I cannot wait for you to see it if you haven't seen it before, as they run around chasing one another. It's kind of like a gurgling, burping roar is the best way to describe it. You would never guess that it was an impala that made it if you were to just hear the audio. And I did hear them doing it for the first time about 5 or 6 days ago. So they are beginning to do it, but that was the first and last time I've heard it. So it is building up to the right period for them. To be in full rutting swing, but we're not quite there yet. So it's a dangerous time of the year for the impala, obviously because of the threat they pose to themselves, fighting with themselves for the females. But more of a problem comes in is that when they are so caught up in fighting with themselves, in the Sabi Sands are being controlled on one network. That's why you have different areas, networks for different areas that you work in, so that there's less radio traffic, and the radio traffic you do here is applicable to the smaller kind of area that you may find yourself in. Some very, very large bull elephant footprints walking down this road. Just going to try and find some clear ones to, I think these are the best ones up ahead here, the ones on the right here, Wium. I'm just going to even jump out to give you an idea of how big these footprints are compared to mine.
Next one.
So that's a very big track, and that's a big foot. Just to give you a quick idea as to how big those feet actually are, and I hope that gave you an idea. It is difficult though with the camera being mounted on one position, because it would be so nice to have a camera that we could swoop over the tracks and talk you through what's going on, and that is something that could potentially be incorporated into the Safari Live experience in the future, and we are looking into it. So that is something to look forward to. Question through from Anne on Twitter asking what it is that triggers the rutting season, and it's said that the first full moon of May will be the trigger for male impala to start rutting, and I think that is a good kind of event that you could expect the rutting to happen on, but it very often, varies a few days either side of that full moon. It's not like a light switch going on and off, and that's important to realize out here, is that very seldom do things happen exactly as they are always supposed to. So in and around the next full moon, we could expect the rutting season to be fully underway, but it wouldn't surprise me that even if before that they start to rut. Good morning, guys, it's Scott here. I'd like to head towards the airstrip off Safari Driveway and see what's happening there, and possibly respond to a sighting if anything exciting is happening. Okay, copy. Not to bother. I'll get an update later on and see what he's up to then. Could you just go again with the position for me, please? Okay, copy. Thank you very much. I'll get an update a bit later. Okay, copy. Thank you very much. There's a tree squirrel that's alarm calling quite profusely here. Now, again, the problem with alarm calls is that it could be alarm calling at one of many predators. Birds of prey, snakes. Oh, I beg your pardon. It was actually a crested barbet calling, and it's unacceptable, but I do get them confused, and I'm not sure what it is. Yeah, if you don't mind, it's just on that dead tree there. You can see it's silhouetted in the middle. So apologies for that misidentification, but the bird has just flown off there. Well done, Wium. And it was a crested barbet. Okay, so just to keep you fully updated, and there are no secrets out here on safari, there's a sighting of Tingana, a beautiful big male leopard who is the dominant male of this area to the west of where we usually travel or traverse. But there are already 3 vehicles there and 5 vehicles queuing up to go there. So occasionally there is a lot of pressure and intensity around one sighting, and it's often best to avoid those areas because we don't want to be queuing up to see a leopard. We've already seen a leopard this morning, and of course if it was nearby and it was meant to be and there was space to go, and we would go, but sometimes it just doesn't make sense to join these queues and rather go out and do your own thing. And those are not the difficult questions, but they are the scenarios that field guides do find themselves in, not just us with you, but also the guys who are here with guests, whether to respond or not to respond, or go to one area or not to another, are the decisions that you're faced with. And naturally, the guides feel great pressure to show their guests a good time when they are out here, but where's the balance between racing around, seeing as many different animals as you can, as opposed to going out and just enjoying the experience? So it's a tricky balance, and a good guide will have that balance of being able to keep his guests happy without having to race around from one sighting to the next. We certainly will, though, keep track of that sighting, and if people do manage to go through or decide to take themselves off the standby queue, then of course we may go. But for now, it is not leopard we are interested in. It is now a small bird that we are looking for. Morning, Roy. Thanks, man. Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, well, we are on the airstrip. And now it's time to start searching for a little brown bird. It's about the size of a thrush, which is a bird that a lot of people worldwide will know. And I'm hoping we can find them. They're not a numerous bird, and I was not surprised to see one here, but happily excited to see that there were some here when I did see them a few days ago. Just going to stop and get out my binoculars and have a good look around and see if we cannot get another bird for the ornithologists out there. They were exactly in this area where we're looking now the last time I saw them, but obviously birds have wings and the ability to fly, and therefore they could be a great distance away from here now. Oh, I've got them. Okay. I think. And it's just up ahead of us here. So now again, it's a small bird. I hope it lets us get close enough to it to allow you. Oh no. Oh no, that wasn't it that flew off, so that's good news. Oh, I saw a bird fly off of a very similar size, and I thought it was the one we were looking for. Where? Now I fear that the bird I was hoping was the bird we were looking for was actually a different one. And I apologize for that. Okay, well, I think I'm just going to have to swallow my pride. Apologies for that. I did think I'd seen the correct bird, but what I think I may have found is something else that's interesting. And that is a crowned lapwing nest. I can see the adult sitting down and in all likelihood incubating her nest. So let's go and have a look at that if we have found something else of interest.